Thank you for joining. My name is Stephen Newhouser with OneLogin. We really, on behalf of Ninja and Bamboo, we thank you for joining us today. We hope you find this very informative and an exciting presentation, as a lot of people are looking at how to streamline IT operations, but also make people happy at their jobs. And we've got some great speakers today. We also will be giving away some Amazon gift cards for the first 20 attendees that have joined. And we've got some other gift card giveaways too. So thank you for sharing your time with us. We're really excited that you joined us. Thank you. Oh, and one last thing, this is going to be recorded. I believe you got that announcement from Zoom, but just as an FYI, full disclosure. Adriana, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adriana Clark. I am the HR manager here at Bamboo HR, and we partner with OneLogin and Ninja to help us successfully drive that employee productivity and satisfaction through the IT automation.
Great. And again, my name is Stephen Newhouser. I'm with OneLogin, been here 7 years, and we work with MSPs as well as other IT organizations. So thanks for joining us again.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm Pete Breton. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Ninja RMM, and we've been working with MSP and IT leaders for the last 7 years to help them simplify IT operations and run their businesses better. So we're really excited to talk with you today. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Adriana.
Awesome. Thank you. So a little bit about Bamboo. We are the only HR software designed to help small to medium-sized businesses to create an amazing workplace. Our software is there to help you hire, onboard, manage time and compensation, and develop company culture like a pro. It really makes it easy to gather and analyze employee data, and it's very insightful and intuitive. What we want to do here at Bamboo HR is to set you free to focus on what really matters most, which is your people.
Great. And OneLogin, if you're not familiar with us, is we're a unified access management platform. And OneLogin has been ranked a leader in both Gartner and Forrester for leading access management. So we've been around a long time, almost 11 years now. We've got 5,500 customers, and we're managing over almost 50 million identities. We've got 6,000 pre-configured apps. And we work with customers of all sizes, from Airbus to Airbnb. And but our core strength is really that SMB, 50 users to 5,000 users. What is identity management? For those of you that are not familiar, is we control access to everything. So we're going to have users, and we're going to get users from various different databases. We're going to control access into single sign-on apps like web apps like Office and Salesforce and Slack. We're also going to control access to getting on the network, and we can integrate with your Active Directory on-prem. And so we take all these different things that you can log into, and we become the front door, giving you visibility and security to who's accessing what. We truly believe at OneLogin that controlling access is really determining whether you're secure or not. If you control it, you're secure. And if you don't, well, that's another thing. So thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm going to have to find our own Airbus to Airbnb. I really like that little line there. So if you don't know Ninja, we help thousands of businesses manage millions of endpoints effectively, efficiently, and in an automated fashion, and support their end users at scale from anywhere, with a focus on simplifying IT management through visibility and automation, again, because I'm going to repeat myself. And so we're really excited to talk to you guys today about how Ninja and OneLogin and Bamboo have simplified operations and really helped improve employee satisfaction and productivity.
So to set the stage, why is IT automation important? And here's the reasoning. In August, about 65% of employees reported that they were seeking a new job because they simply wanted a change. And the outcome is that they're getting those jobs. Nearly 9 out of 10 company executives say that they are seeing higher than normal turnover. And according to PricewaterhouseCoopers survey, while salary is still a very important factor and it plays a part, what employees are now stating is that they're looking more deeply into the value of non-monetary benefits like expended flexible time, so work-life balance, career growth, well-being, and upscaling. So with that, next slide. So when we look deeper into why employees leave, 10% leave over tech frustrations. The average US employee spends about 22 minutes per day, which ends up being 8 hours per month on IT issues. And these are IT issues that are outside of their normal duties. But this is where HR and IT have the opportunity to kind of be the superheroes who swoop in and to reduce and solve these problems for our employees. So today we're going to cover two core opportunities to improve the employee experience with the tools of IT automation. So what we're going to do really quickly here is take a poll. If everybody can jump in and answer, are you planning to invest in the onboarding process in 2020?
2022, hopefully. If you
Oh
already
my gosh.
invested in it, you don't need to join.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm going back in time. Sorry about that.
I think with COVID, we all are we went back in time.
Thanks, Peter. And fun fact, 60% of employers say that remote onboarding is becoming much more challenging than it was on site. So now we're shifting on the way that we onboard. And why the initial experience is so important. The reason it's important is because we want to ensure that new employees have the resources they need to be productive and that they're feeling welcome. We want to minimize any first day friction or confusion or stress. This is where we can facilitate opportunities to engage and interact with new colleagues. And there's a quote by Maya Angelou that I really like that really hits home. And it goes, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you do, but people will not forget how you made them feel. So again, making people feel welcomed at that onboarding process is extremely critical. It's critical because it attests to turnover costs. Turnover can cost up to 150% of new hire salary. Engagement. When you have an engaged employee, they tend to be much more productive. You have higher performers, there's higher productivity. Again, goes back to talent retention, which then in turn is higher profits. And job satisfaction. Employees are happier. When they're happier, they're going to stay. And onboarding plays a really big piece of that. And what we need to keep in mind is that it doesn't have to be complicated, right? What you're doing is you're taking advantage of best practices and you're really laying the foundation with onboarding as a program for their career with the organization.
So I think we can share we're sharing it right now. It looks like the biggest number here have, yes, you're planning on investing in onboarding in 2022, but you're not sure what you will do. Fortunately, you're here today, and hopefully we can talk a little bit more about it and how we can help. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. One thing I do want to point out is, I know we have a mixed audience here of managed service providers and, corporate IT teams. And one thing I want to point out and take from Adriana's comments is that even if these aren't your employees that you're onboarding, they're your clients' employees, having that great experience for your clients' employees is going to make you look like a rock star. You always have to justify why you're there. I know that's a core pain point that MSPs have. And having an amazing onboarding experience for your clients' employees is really just going to put you at the top of the list as a standout company. So I want to talk next about direct to employee procurement. The application and interview process is a little bit like dating. We're all striving to show the best parts of ourselves. Onboarding, though, is where some of that ugly can come out. It's the first official interaction that an employee is going to have with a company. And so it's critical in making a first impression. As the share of remote employees has grown staggeringly in the last 2 years, you can't have an onboarding process anymore that is focused around employees being in the office. Some employees may never be in an office. I'm based in outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and the closest office for me is Tampa for Ninja. And so while I've been to the office, it's not the norm, and I couldn't start by going into the office, right, and getting my laptop. So when I started, if I didn't have a laptop, and this has actually happened to me at past jobs where you don't have the resources you need from day one, you start to reevaluate whether or not this is a good fit for you, right? You're just left dangling. At best, it takes the wind out of your sails and kind of makes that first day or a couple of days kind of a so what. And at worst, it makes you think, do I really want to be here if the company maybe doesn't have its stuff together? So, in addition to that, the employee wants to make a great first impression. And if they're not contributing from day one, that's a bad sign as well. So there are some options, right? If you're on site, if everyone's working in the office, maybe you have a loaner laptop lying around that you can give them, or an old workstation they can sit at. But for remote employees, the only real option is to use their personal computer, which everyone on this phone knows is potentially a huge security risk. So, we wouldn't recommend you do that. So what can you do to make this better and faster and employees more satisfied? Well, you can use a product like Ninja. Surprise, surprise. So without Ninja, let's look at what this workflow looks like, right? Congratulations, your new employee has accepted their offer. The hiring manager requests a new laptop for the employee. The laptop is then delivered on site to the IT team, or if they're remote, maybe to their house, then IT team has to find time to prioritize setting it up. We've done some polls, and it can take 4 to 6 hours, depending on the amount of customization you're doing to, patch the endpoint, get it entirely up to date, install all the software you want, configure the device, etc. You can always give someone a blank, tabula rasa, standard Windows installation laptop, but that's not a great experience. And then IT has to mail that out. So you're talking 3+ weeks, assuming there's no chips shortage, and a pretty significant lift on the IT team to get that employee set up. With Ninja, and actually I'm going to mention Bamboo in here too, you can cut significant amount of time out and amount of IT lift by leveraging, again, a tool like Ninja and a tool like Bamboo. So, your employee is hired. If you're using Bamboo, they can actually automate that procurement request with what laptop they want, what the specs are, what applications they want, et cetera. That goes to the IT team. They can pick the right automation policies to get that set up. The laptop is sent directly to the employee, and all they have to do is install the Ninja agent, and it's going to install all your applications, maybe do some configurations, roll out some security software, all the things they need to have the laptop that they need to be productive from day one. And it's going to be less expensive, it's going to take less time, and it's going to be a better experience for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Yeah. So what happens is after you get your laptop and after, you've worked with Bamboo, the next thing somebody's going to have to log into typically some apps to access. And so that's where OneLogin comes into play. And what we can do is make it easy for IT and the user. So usually how you get apps is you have to manually create a user in, let's say, Active Directory. So somebody's got to go in there and create 5 users, and they need Office 365. So I'm going to go into the Office 365 cloud thing and add 5 users. Oh wait, they need Salesforce. Oh, I got to go log into Salesforce, add 5 users. That's painful. All right, imagine doing that for 100 employees, and you think about the changeover, people coming and going, and the number of apps. That is a lot of onboarding, and I wouldn't want anybody to go through that. And if you offboard or forget to offboard a person, then there's a security risk. So wouldn't it be cool if we could automate that? Well, we can with Bamboo and OneLogin. And so that's what this slide's showing you is technically an HR person should really be in charge of the hiring and, joinees and removing of users because IT doesn't really know that until they get an email from HR. So with OneLogin, Bamboo HR person just goes in there, says Susie's starting on Monday. OneLogin will see that in real time from Bamboo. We could say, okay, Susie is in sales, so we'll write all that information to Active Directory or whatever directory they may be using. And because we know Susie's in sales, she's going to get Salesforce, Slack, Zoom, and email. Well, great. OneLogin will automatically go into those downstream apps and create Susie in there. And so that's a huge saving for everybody. And the other thing is we can, it's important to keep those user stores between Bamboo and Active Directory, because if those get out of whack, well, who's accessing what, which systems, the authoritative system. And so if you don't really know where your users, then, it's hard to really feel secure at night. So OneLogin makes that very seamless for both corporate IT and HR to really keep those user slides in sync. And then if you could jump to the next slide. Thanks, Peter. And finally, what's great from an end user perspective about that onboarding experience is they can really be anywhere in the world, right? They're going to have their laptop that's protected with Ninja. Thank you. And then they're going to log in and they're going to get with one MFA provider, or they can access their VPN through Radius, and they can access all their corporate systems with one password and one MFA tool. And they'll have that single sign-on dashboard, and life's really great from an end user perspective. So that's how we make life easy for people.
Talking to myself. Thanks so much, Stephen. I'd actually love to just jump in on that MFA comment for a second. Ninja's a platform that gives you a ton of access and visibility into your entire IT infrastructure. And, we recognize the importance of security and MFA. And, we enforce MFA throughout our entire platform because of the security risk of giving another platform access to all of your endpoints, right? It's, incredibly important that you be as protected as possible. And yet, we give you the ability to use a tool like OneLogin to log into Ninja because, we trust that their security not only meets ours, but adds to our own security. So I just wanted to toss that in there as well. So I want to add back on to the onboarding at scale, right? So you have the device. You have access to your SaaS applications, but how do you give that really personalized, tailored onboarding experience at scale? Well, the answer is automation. And Ninja uses this concept called policies and policy inheritance to give you a suite of automation capabilities that stack on top of each other. I know the chart on the left here looks like it was made in 1990. I love it, but I got some harassment for how it looks, but it's a really good visualization of how you can use policies to really scale up your personalization during the onboarding phase, right? So, the end user installs the application because they got the endpoint directly from the manufacturer, let's say, and that agent is going to kick off a whole bunch of automations. And that can be a one-off thing, right? It could be just one blanket policy for everyone. And that's okay, right? Like you can do a lot that's standardized across your entire install base. Like if you're an internal IT director, maybe that's, joining the domain and deploying productivity applications like Microsoft 365. It might be rolling out your security solution, whether it be Bitdefender or CrowdStrike or whatever it may be. Maybe you have to encrypt all of your drives, and you can do a lot across every single, end user endpoint that you have, because standardizing that, security and productivity require a level of standardization. You've probably already done that. And that's fantastic. And that's better than a lot of companies are doing today. But if you want to go a step further and make that top-notch A+ onboarding experience, you want to add a level of personalization and customization on top of it that just makes it a little bit better, right? So let's say on top of that master onboarding policy, that does a ton of work. It's your workhorse. It does a ton of work for you. You have a policy on top of that for your remote employees. That's a little bit different than a policy for your on-site employees. So your remote employees, they don't need your Wi-Fi profile in your office because they're not in the office. Maybe you need to give them a VPN that's installed and configured. So you'd have, slightly different installs based on whether someone's on site or remote. And then let's say, your employees are a little bit of, divas, and they need specific applications for each of their jobs. So everyone on marketing gets Photoshop because we just make things look pretty, right? And engineering gets an IDE and VirtualBox because they're, they're doing the hard work of making your company better. And finance gets QuickBooks and certain drives mapped to them, right? You can apply this, and every single time someone's onboarded, you just say, okay, I want that engineering remote employee policy, and all of that's going to be installed and configured at scale. Now, we have some partners who are doing this in a much more complex way than this, and installing many more applications, removing bloatware, doing security hardening on endpoints to just get them in exactly the right place. And they're doing this for every new employee they onboard. And this is MSPs and internal IT partners, right? So for the MSPs, instead of marketing, engineering, and finance, it could be client A, B, and C, right? You do a ton at that bottom level that's standard across all of your clients. And then at the highest level, it's the unique needs of each organization. So maybe you have a different domain join for each of those clients, and that's what's unique at the top level. So you can have this incredibly automated, incredibly standardized experience that when the person opens their laptop, it feels like you set up their computer just for them. And that's an amazing onboarding experience, but it also saves you time. It standardizes your environment, which in the long term, again, saves you time. And ultimately, your technicians can be more efficient and effective because they know exactly what's out there for all of your endpoints that are under management.
Well, let's do another poll. This one is, what impact does IT security and support processes have on employees?
This one could get contentious.
So another aspect of IT automation is how you approach support and security on the day-to-day of operation. Here at Bamboo HR, we really care about the career happiness of our employees and having them do meaningful work. What we want to do is set free our people to do great work, which is in compliance, security, IT, and strategies. So why is IT automation important? It's important because it improves the process control, it lowers operating costs, and it increases the output. And so as we're looking at this poll here, good, that's what we want to see, is large positive impact on satisfaction and productivity.
Yeah, and I'd love to jump in here too, if you don't mind, just for a second. Can we actually see the results on screen? Do we know? Well, whether or not you can, about 50% said that there's a large positive impact on satisfaction and productivity. And as Adriana said, that's exactly what we want to see. But that does mean 50% aren't there yet, right? And a solid quarter say that there's, a solid third say that there's some negative impact of IT on employee productivity and satisfaction. And a lot of the feedback I hear when there is a negative is, people who are frustrated with security processes where they have to MFA into 6 or 10 or 15 apps, 6 or 10 or 15 times a day, right? Or, they can't get the support they need because they're in the field. A lot of tools out there require you to be attached to the company network or on site to get the support you need, or to get your endpoint patched, you have to connect to the company network a certain number of times a month. If you want remote support, you have to maybe be on the company network or be available at the right time or stop your work, right? So we're trying to, between OneLogin and Ninja, we're trying to address all of those things that a lot of times they're not negative in terms of a big enough problem to cause turnover. Only 10% was the number that we saw earlier, but those things add up and they add to frustration and friction and difficulty. And that makes people less productive, less satisfied. And maybe it is the tipping point to finally make somebody leave. Stephen, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, if you jump to the next slide, actually, that's a great transition, Pete, because, your employees are struggling with passwords, right? we think, there's a lot of apps. I think maybe these stats are under rated. I think that it was a couple of years ago was the most recent I could find them, but 75% of all employees have 5 apps open at one time. I know I have a lot more tabs, and then there's 20% of the folks are doing 15 or more apps at one time. And on average, businesses or an employee is using 10 apps or just under 10 apps to do their job. So what does that mean? It means there's too many passwords. There's no way an individual can remember all those passwords. And as a result, they're going to use the same password everywhere. And what's even scarier is a lot of people are using their personal emails for work corporate systems too. And ultimately, I can basically, or anybody could go buy 15 billion passwords on the dark web. You can't do anything on the internet without creating an account and a username password. And I pretty much bet my left arm on this is that everybody on planet Earth hates passwords, and everybody on Earth doesn't want another password. So that's a big challenge for your employees. And even if they think they've got a really secure password with the number of breaches that have happened, I bet pretty certainly that everybody's current password today is only different by one character from all of the other compromised passwords. So now the biggest concern for your business is really going to become from a password breach. An end user or a hacker, they don't have to figure out how to crack Cisco's encryption code. The Russian, the Chinese, they don't need to, work on that. That's hard. It's much easier for them to send a phishing spear phishing email. So it's gotten very targeted. So it's spear phishing email to a specific user, and that user is gonna, we're moving fast. We got kids, we're at home, there's a lot of noise. I got soccer practice right after this webinar, and so they're gonna click on something, moving quick. It's not their fault. That's just life, and they're gonna give up that password. And so that's how your business is most likely gonna, end up in the headlines, unfortunately.
And in case anyone was listening, I wasn't nodding my head because my password is only changed by one number every time. That's definitely not the case.
Yeah. So and back, just one last thing. So what I would argue is if your company doesn't have a solution or a strategy to try and address and manage, and better yet, eliminate passwords, then you're massively misallocated your security IT budget, because that's how people are going to get in trouble. And that's, if you jump to the next slide, Peter, that's really where OneLogin can help them with. We mentioned this about a great end user experience with the onboarding process, but there's also really great blending of security and productivity with OneLogin. The end user doesn't really know they're being more secure. All they love is they've got one password. Finally, I can use MFA one time, usually in the morning when I want to get access to everything. And they've got one dashboard for everything. So from their point of view, world's much better, and they don't even know they're secure. And there's another benefit of OneLogin that can help with that kind of, because I know we're talking about that support thing, is a lot of times they're going to need to reset their password. And so OneLogin integration with Active Directory is, again, a real-time sync, and essentially we can reset that password where the user's doing it. So they don't have to call the help desk and say, hey, I forgot my password. It was Super Bowl weekend and, I had too many barley pops. It's like, no, or I've been on vacation or whatever it might be. People are going to forget that password. So we can automate that and take that off the help desk ticket burden and let the user empower themselves. And certainly, if you jump to the next slide, we can also help corporate IT a lot. How do we help corporate IT? Well, OneLogin has that front door to everything. We're going to control access to networking. We're going to control access to SaaS apps. We can, tie into Active Directory on-prem with LDAP. So we're going to be that centralized authentication. We're going to know who's logging into everything. And that brings visibility back to IT. Again, corporate IT, how can you be secure if you're not sure who's accessing what? So that's one of the best things we can do. The next thing is we've talked about how do we eliminate passwords. Risk SAML, and this is a little bit technical, so if you're not familiar with it, happy to address that. But SAML, I think, is one of the gold standards, most important cybersecurity technologies out there, and thousands of apps support it. Bamboo supports it, Ninja supports it. And what SAML does is, if I try to log in directly to that web app, Office, Salesforce, there's thousands of apps that support it, that user is going to redirect it back to OneLogin. Again, there is no way around OneLogin. More importantly, there is no password for that. You really just going to have your AD password, which will be your OneLogin password. And essentially, everything that's hooked up to OneLogin will be that password. So we're eliminating hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of passwords. Or OneLogin, maybe you have contractors that aren't in AD. Well, we are our own cloud directory, or maybe you don't have AD. We can be that cloud directory. And so your OneLogin password is your password to all those downstream SaaS apps. Peter mentioned this earlier. MFA is really how you're going to be secure, right? If you get your OneLogin password, well, we've got multi-factor authentication that will prevent that hacker from getting into your OneLogin system. But without identity management, without OneLogin, you're going to get killed with MFA. We heard a lot from the work from home. I got an MFA to VPN, right? Oh, I got an MFA into Salesforce. I want to answer that email. I'm going to MFA. You're MFAing all day long, even if you just have one MFA vendor. But I've heard some people have 5, 6 different. They're getting an SMS text message. They've got Google. They've got Microsoft. I mean, that is a disaster from an end user experience. They're going to revolt and they're not going to want it. So we can make MFA everywhere very seamlessly and very easy. And again, from a compliance reporting standpoint, if we are that front door to accessing, you can just run a report. If I am a HIPAA company and that matters to you guys, well, all my HIPAA data is stored in X, Y, and Z. Well, I'll run a report. And with OneLogin, that's super easy. Without OneLogin, somebody's got to go into this system, download all the users who accessed it. Let me smash this in, and you got 4 or 5 spreadsheets, and you're doing a big VLOOKUP smash in. That's not fun. You've got more productive things. So again, OneLogin can help corporate IT by be more compliant, help with audit, and as well as streamline that support from a self-service password reset. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. I actually don't have a slide on this, but I want to just hop onto what Stephen just said about the visibility around compliance for not the login side, but for, device access via remote control, change management, activities run by Ninja, for example. All of those things are similarly visible and stored in Ninja. So again, if you're using OneLogin because you have security and compliance needs and also need an endpoint management solution that gives you that same visibility on the device management and device access side, Ninja can be that for you as well. So I didn't know he was going to say that, so I just want to toss it in there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's talk a minute. So, we first talked about onboarding, and the experience there is so critical, right? But the gains you're going to get from productivity, efficiency, and satisfaction are much larger on the ongoing basis perspective, right? So, as Stephen was talking about, if you talk about all the time you get back from not hitting that MFA button 10 times a day and only hitting it once over the course of a year, over the course of all of your employees, it adds up, right? That's where the big impact is going to be, is the day-to-day work that you're doing. And similarly, with Ninja, the biggest impact is going to be in the day-to-day support, maintenance, and management of your infrastructure, endpoints, and end users, right? And, one of the reasons we've expanded to a multi-product solution, we used to just be an endpoint management solution or an RMM, and now we have ticketing and backup and a couple of other things, is because the support process and the operations and support process has really been this linear and reactive process for a long time, right? Certainly some companies do this better than others, and some companies have gotten to that proactive management phase, but the traditional support model has been reactive, right? You wait for someone to raise their hand and say, I need help. However that may be, it could be, by email, by coming to the help desk window, by some system that you have, it could be chat, whatever. They raise their hand and say, I have a problem. And then you get that ticket, you do some basic triage, see what's going on with the ticket, maybe add some additional information. Then you assign that ticket And then you go into the work, right? Like at that point, that's all administrative. And then you go into the work, right? You have to get more information. You have to do some initial fact finding. Maybe you go in and try to do a quick solve with your level 1 tech. That doesn't work. Maybe you reassign it. And it's this iterative process until you can solve it. Now, if it's a password reset, obviously that's super easy and that linear process makes sense. But especially as you get more complex, you want to minimize that administrative burden and maximize the time spent on actually solving the problem. One of the main challenges with this, especially for those in the internal IT space who maybe are using a bunch of different siloed systems, is that all of the systems you're using to solve this problem don't talk to each other. You may have, one vendor for ticketing, a different vendor for remote access. You maybe have some information in your CRM or your PSA. You may be using a CMDB from, an ITSM vendor. You have a documentation platform that's not, that's over here. All of these things aren't integrated. They don't talk to each other. They don't have a unified data model. That means your technicians are context switching. They're looking between platforms and an endpoint may be called Pete's laptop over here, and it might be called laptop 1234 over here. And you've got to reconcile that and potentially integrate it and sort through those things. And that makes you incredibly inefficient and reactive. The big benefit of Ninja is it's a unified data model. Everything is working together from your endpoint management or your RMM to your ticketing, to your backup, to your documentation. It's all in one place and working together. So even just from the first step, just the most basic improvement, right? Even if you're waiting for the end user to raise their hand, that basic information gathering goes away, right? Your ticket's right there. It's got your device information. It's got all of your hardware and software inventory. It's got everything you need, including the contextual information from the ticket to say, we know the problem, we know how to solve it, we have the tools in one place to go and fix it, right? And so in that case, maybe you're only saving 30 seconds to a minute per ticket, but that can add up, right? You still have to assign and review it. You still have to do the complex remediation, and then you go ahead and close it out, right? But actually, I don't even have a slide for this, but if you're using Ninja Endpoint Management and Ninja Ticketing, that assign and review ticket can also be automated, right? The ticket comes in, we know who it's from, we know maybe some information about the ticket based on what's in the title. We can even potentially assign that automatically based on the contextual information of the device, the organization it's under, and the contents of the ticket. So I don't have a slide on that, but I'm gonna go ahead and skip to the next one. But in addition, Ninja actually makes you more proactive, right? And any endpoint management solution will do this, right? You have an agent on the endpoint and it can detect when something goes wrong. And that's fully customizable. It's based on your needs and thresholds and what you're looking for. But let's say it's something simple like Dropbox keeps failing. The service keeps stopping. As an end user, I'll notice that eventually and say, I can't get my files or they're not backing up to the cloud or whatever it is, but that takes time. And that time causes data loss. It causes a bad experience, et cetera. Ninja, for example, could detect that and automatically create and again, assign a ticket, right? And that it's going to be a context rich ticket, right? It's going to say, Dropbox service has stopped. It stopped at this date on this endpoint that's associated with this user. It's going to create that ticket based on that. Whatever automations you're doing in Ninja Ticketing, it could say this goes to a specific person because it's a level 1 ticket. And then you can go and solve that, right? So you're cutting out a lot of that administrative burden and automating some of the steps that take time so you can focus on higher value activities. And last but not least, what I think is most impressive is automating that remediation at scale, right? So going back to that Dropbox example, maybe a better example for this one would have been something more complex, like this application keeps crashing. That's, line of business application, or, a bunch of files were deleted, whatever it may be. But here, at those lower level problems that are persistent and take time, but don't add a lot of value, that's where Ninja can really automate remediation at scale, right? So again, with that Dropbox example, if we detect that the service has stopped and you want us to do that, we can restart it immediately. And so then the end user doesn't know. they were never impacted by that failure. You can still track it in a ticket, and if you need to, and you want to bill a client for it, if you're an MSP, or if you want to just track that it's happening from an incident, tracking and trending perspective. But we can detect that those things happened, potentially auto remediate them, and then the end user never has a bad experience. And there are a ton of examples of this, right? Like it could be something like, I'm gonna space on the ton of examples I just said I had. The basic ones like services stopping, processes not running, applications not installed, applications being uninstalled, applications that should be blacklisted being installed. You can automate the remediation of many of those things. So, for example, if I say Chrome is not allowed on any of my endpoints and I detect that it's installed, I can immediately uninstall it. I could potentially block it being installed, and then the end user, they're not significantly and negatively impacted. It's all automated from a security perspective, and your end users have a better experience. So, by using a single unified platform that has all of your IT tools really in one place, you can really drive efficiency and proactivity, which will have a significant and sustained impact on the happiness of your employees.
Awesome. So I wanted to highlight two stories that we had here at Bamboo HR, and it highlights how we've been able to use Ninja in OneLogin. So in our performance management survey, we do ask our employees this question: what would have the greatest impact on my ability to do my best work more often? And the feedback we received was from our sales division. We were ready to launch new technology for our sales team. Because we were able to partner with Ninja, we did this in 2 minutes. There was so much excitement from our employees. Everybody was in the product, they were using it, everything was smooth. Before we were able to partner with Ninja, we were looking at almost doubling our IT support team to be able to work on this. So because of that partnership, we didn't have to do that. It was a smooth process. We were able to get our employees excited, engaged, and again, 2 minutes. I mean, that's kind of unheard of. So again, it's very important. And once we launched it, we were ready to go. With the OneLogin, this is really critical. Doing the auto grant access for all of our new hires. Employees are able to have access on day one. They have everything that they need. It's a seamless experience, and it really takes away from the stress. Security is important. It's important, especially when it comes to sensitive departures. With the OneLogin, it's a one-time click where IT can work on making sure that all access is restricted and the individual no longer has access to our system. So again, super important. And with IT automation, it is important, but it's also critical, especially as the remote work expands and talent retention is an ongoing concern.
We did have to pay Adriana a ton of money to tell you those stories, but they are true. So
Yeah. True.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adriana. And with that, we've kind of wrapped up our slides today. We've got about 15 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, we're always happy to answer anything about the technology of our platforms, how they work together, what we're doing for dinner, whatever. Just throw your questions out there, and we're happy to answer anything we can.
Well, do you mind if I go through the chat and scroll through and just answer some on the fly? Is that a good thing? So Dan, I believe I answered your question about OneLogin does come in a package of services. That was in the chat. I replied. Deb, OneLogin, there is no max for users. So if you guys log in at Petco, guess what? OneLogin is handling authentication service for that. Pearson Education. So if your kids are out there and they're logging into tests, I think there's 30 million or so kids that are using OneLogin. So it is a highly scalable platform. So no max number of users. Generally, where we see people kind of convert is, in that, it could be 10, 15 users or whatever, but really the critical mass for OneLogin is Are you sick of logging into 20 different sites? Are you sick of having 20 different passwords? If you do, then OneLogin is a really great solution. And that could be at a small company or really big companies. And yes,
There's a question. Oh,
whoops.
sorry. There's a question for Bamboo here from Sean. He asked, can Bamboo automate Microsoft licensing with PAX 8? I have no idea the answer to that, but I figured I'd throw it out for you.
No, and I appreciate the answer. I have no clue. Again, I'm just an HR person. However, Sean, if you want to connect with me, I can definitely get that information to you.
Yep. And Chris said, what are the challenges to implementing OneLogin? What we have historically found, Chris, is that OneLogin is a really broad-based platform. You're not just doing MFA, you're doing directory integration for self-service password and role-based access control. You've got a password manager, you're doing SAML single sign-on. And so it is a big platform, but we've got services that we train our partners and our customers to really make it successful. And we've done that with 5,500 customers and over, I think it was 40 or 50 million end users. So we can get you over the challenges to implement OneLogin. And that's one of the things we go very slow. We're not a pushy sales organization, because if you get it wrong, either somebody's going to be locked out, or worse yet, somebody will have a backdoor access. So the implementation is very hands, but it's not like overly complex. Again, these are built on standards, and we can get most deployments done. A relatively straightforward deployment we can get done in less than 4 weeks. It's really about communicating to the end users and doing your homework up front.
Awesome. I'd like to take one here from Hector Machado. Hector asked if we could monitor more than just processes. Can we do services? There's a list of, I think we call them conditions. I think there's like 20 or 30 different categories, but you can monitor everything from Windows event IDs to disk space to performance monitors like memory utilization, CPU, uptime, downtime, unexpected shutoffs. You can also do the equivalent on Mac and Linux as well. So daemons, uptime, all of those things. You can do monitors of deployed scripts as well. So you can monitor, if you write a script and deploy it every 5 minutes and it's returning false, you can monitor what that script result condition is. So it's an incredibly flexible set of conditions that you can monitor for. And then we have a pretty built out alerting and notification process as well. So you can do alerts in the platform as well as notifications via email, SMS, Slack, PagerDuty, a bunch of other things. So not only are we monitoring for those things, but we're putting the information in your face when and where you need it so that you can address those critical issues and or create a ticket automatically as well.
Cool, thanks. There was a question on, again, because a lot of people are using their personal passwords in their lives, and then they're transferring those over in their corporate world. So Mitchell had a question around, can OneLogin support a personal LastPass? And yeah, we do have that. So a lot of our companies will, I have inside of OneLogin, I've got all my personal apps. Now, OneLogin IT cannot see those personal apps. They have no access. So it can become a little bit harder to support those, but because we don't want a corporate IT at OneLogin to know my Netflix or my bank account password. So that is invisible to those users. But I absolutely started using that. I started generating random complex passwords, and then I'm using that for Netflix and my banking apps. Before I had some kind of passphrase, and then I had kind of different phrases of a passphrase, and it just doesn't work. And so yeah, I use OneLogin in my personal life, and they make that available.
Awesome. I've got a question here from Marco DeLissi. He asked about the ability to check out stuff about our. I think he was asking about Ninja's platform, but ultimately, I would recommend anyone who wants information that we can't answer here to go to our websites and check them out. Also, if you connect with us and have specific questions, my LinkedIn profile is open. You can connect with me. You can connect with Steven. I'm sure you can connect with Adriana, and we can give you, kind of personalized answers based on your individual needs. But Marco, I will share with you our LinkedIn channel so you have that.
And there was a question for Keith out there. So thank you guys. This is one of the best. I don't know. You guys are awesome. I feel like you guys all get double A pluses and gold stars for the participation. I mean, I'm firing questions. It's awesome. So, but Keith had a question about what's the advantages of OneLogin over AuthPoint and WatchGuard. You know, a lot of those guys are going to be. You're still going to need like a firewall or a VPN client. And OneLogin is going to have that radius endpoint. So we're just handling the authentication to radius. So you'll typically point WatchGuard towards OneLogin. We'll handle that. If you're talking specifically about WatchGuard's MFA, it's a good solution. They typically work MFA on the machine. We do not yet do device level MFA. So a WatchGuard, a Duo, a YubiKey would still be needed for that machine level MFA. But where OneLogin really excels is our MFA is push. It's sending with context because everybody's getting a ton of SMS texts. A ton of people are getting pushed. So we're sending Steven Newhauser this location. Hey, did you really send that push? And yes, I can say yes or no. So hopefully that answers your question, Keith.
Steven, I just realized that we didn't talk about our grand prizes.
Oh, yes. I'm guessing Lisa's keeping us on track. Okay, yeah.
She did, yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, we got 10 minutes left, so we can do that before people drop off.
And I think the intention was each Ninja, OneLogin, and Bamboo were going to select a random winner. Is that correct? So if you want to go first, Steven.
Yes, thank you very much. So we appreciate all of you folks that attended today. And certainly we're happy to set up additional appointments with you guys. But we'd like to award our $500 grand gift prize to a guy named Jeremy Sheffield. He's with Infinite Solutions. So thank you for attending and joining today. I believe you're in Indiana in the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest from Michigan. So thank you for attending. That was the raffle out of the hat. And we'll send you a gift card for $500. And we'll connect to you on that later. Thank you.
Everyone who says boo gets a lump of coal. So I'd like to announce Ninjas. Lisa's drawing these out of a hat, but and slacking me these. But Igor Bushiev from MLB is our $250 winner. So congratulations, Igor.
Thank you. And then we should do, there's still some, there's Adolfo just put a question. My organization is looking for an HR solution to implement. So they do RFPs. I'm guessing you guys will fill out an RFP. That's in the Q&A, Peter.
Oh, I think that's for Adriana. So you're nodding your head, but it looks like yes, Bamboo does respond to RFPs. Should Adolfo reach out to you, Adriana?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. And I actually have a question that came in before we announce the last one here. I have a question that came in from Chris Tran. He asked, can you deploy Windows updates on Windows Server 2019 with Ninja RMM? So we support all the way back to 2008 R2, and you can fully automate your patching for any supported Windows Server, Windows endpoint, Windows Server endpoint, Windows Workstation endpoint, Mac OS, and Linux. Linux is only certain distributions, but yes, Windows Server 2019 is one of those operating systems we support.
Perfect. There's a question from Sanjay. So thank you for submitting this. It was a question does it provide IP-based MFA as well? So OneLogin can use an IP range. So if it's whitelisted and let's say you're coming from the corporate domain, then maybe you don't want to trigger MFA, and that's very doable with OneLogin, super easy to configure. And then where we can also use IP is determine a risk and whether that user should be prompted for MFA. So we have something called, adaptive MFA, and so if a user is coming from the same IP range over and over again, then we'll trigger MFA even if they're, or maybe we'll say, hey, they don't need MFA, so they don't have to be on the corporate network. Since all of us are working from home, we have that solution that can use machine learning to trigger it. But if I go to an airport or wherever, get on my Wi-Fi, then maybe we'll be triggered for MFA. So we definitely have that ability, Sanjay. Somebody mentioned about Duo. We definitely work with Duo. They're a great company. I think they're one of the best MFA solutions out there. I wish we had some capabilities, but they do MFA really well. And really what we do is single sign-on identity management. And everybody's talking about identity is the new perimeter. I know Duo has a single sign-on capabilities that support SAML 2.0, but a lot of your apps are gonna not support always support SAML. Or if they do, maybe your customer doesn't want to pay that premium SAML license. So you're gonna need a password manager. And so that means you'll probably have to buy Duo and Duo Access Gateway plus a LastPass. But what about what if you want to do self-service password reset, or what if you want a cloud directory? So what we've seen a lot is the way I answer that question is if you don't need device level MFA and you're okay with MFA, in front of all your applications, then OneLogin is generally going to be a great solution to that. If you need device level MFA and you need password manager, we definitely have companies buying Duo or YubiKey plus OneLogin. So hopefully, Eric, that's answered your question. And then Jack, we do not do MFA on top of a Cisco. So that Cisco really controls that access to physical infrastructure, like a server, like a firewall, and like an endpoint.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. There was a question earlier I do just want to touch on. Someone asked about Ninja's documentation solution. I do want to say it's currently in beta. We love it. We think it's great. We're adding a lot to it. Ultimately, we have some partners who are using it full force. They left other documentation platforms because they were already using Ninja, and they are now using our documentation platform in Ninja seamlessly. And we have some who have said, you know what, there are still some features that we need. Because it's a beta product, we're still adding features to it every release, and we will, very significantly improve it in the near future. But if you want to check it out, just reach out to me. We'll spin up a trial for you. If you're a Ninja partner already, we can enable it for you. And if you're not, just let me know, and we can get you a trial so you can check it out. I do think with that, Adriana, do you have your $250 winner picked out? You don't. Okay, 1 second. We'll get Lisa to spin the wheel for us. 1 second.
Actually, jumping in here, we just have 2 big gift cards today. So we put you on the spot, Adriana, but you're all good.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, I just saw another question. This is from Sean in the Q&A. He says, will OneLogin work if you've already deployed MFA for? Yeah, absolutely. OneLogin, we're like middleware. We have to play nice with everybody. And so so if you've already rolled out Duo, or if you've rolled out Microsoft Authenticator or Google, you can just go in there and pick one of your authenticators. A lot of times people are requiring, I know our engineers that are touching like not physical, but like the Amazon infrastructure that runs OneLogin, we require them to use physical tokens. So you can have a policy saying, I want all the executives, they get the, MFA, and they have a session duration into OneLogin every hour, right? Because they want it really secure. Maybe people that work on the retail floor or manufacturing floor, they log in once a day and they can use a lesser security policy. So it's very easy to pick the right layer of security for that individual, and that could be a mixture of how long the session duration is or what type of MFA they use and make available. So super flexible.
We have a question here for Bamboo from Paul. Paul, I'm not going to pronounce your last name. Yurkovac. I apologize if I butchered that. They're interested in pricing for resale client side. I think we were talking to Cassie earlier, and that was something you guys are either working on or already have.
Yeah, one of the things, Peter, I would love Bamboo to go work with managed service providers. I think it's a great combination, the OneLogin plus Bamboo. That onboarding, offboarding can help small companies. But I don't know what the decision was. Cassie and I think Jordan may have been on that call too. So I would say stay tuned and ask them. If you're interested as an MSP, reach out to Bamboo and tell them, hey, because I think MSP should own the entire stack, and that HR is an important piece of the overall kind of operation to a business. So What else is there?
Did you have anything to add to that, Adriana?
No.
Okay.
I don't. Thanks, Steve. I
Sorry.
appreciate it.
Well, and everybody, let's give Adriana. She basically got Cassie, which was, I think she's the VP for Bamboo. She got pulled off literally this morning, and Adriana stepped in, and I think you did a great job. And like we had to run through it for the first time, like 30 minutes before this call. So she did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. Yeah, and thank you, Adriana. We have one other question here from Paul, and I think we saw it earlier. Is licensing for OneLogin provided from Ninja? So ultimately, we don't actually have a close business relationship with Bamboo or OneLogin. We kind of all came together. We knew that Bamboo was a mutual customer of ours, and we were interested in working together. And so no, we don't resell OneLogin licenses, and they don't resell Ninja. So you would purchase directly from OneLogin, and you could then, if you're a Ninja user, you could then turn on the SAML integration and use OneLogin to log into Ninja.
Yeah, we're all kind of separate, but we think this is a classic 1 + 1 + 1 = something a lot greater than 3. And so we were lucky. We just happened to get lucky that Bamboo happened to use OneLogin and Ninja. And we hope you guys found this very informative. Are we going to stay later? I know we had 15 extra minutes, but it looks like a lot of people are dropping off, and you got places to go. Do we want to wrap this, or thank everybody?
I think so. Yeah, I don't see any questions coming in. Again, feel free to reach out to any of us directly, and we can answer any additional questions. But with that, we want to thank you. Thank you for joining us. Steven and Adriana, thank you so much for co-presenting here, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, no, great companies. Thank you, Ninja. Thanks, Bamboo. And thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Go out there and have a great Thursday evening or morning, depending on where you're at. And thanks, everyone. We'll hope to talk to you soon.
Bye.